Okay. Yeah.
You ready? We're going to call to order the regular meeting of the Calamasa Joint Unified School District on June 15, 2021 at approximately 6:34 p.m. If I could have everybody please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. 4.03 is the roll call. I will note that all board members are present this evening with the exception of board member Ingram, and board member Miller is joining us via Zoom. Item 4.04, adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion by board member Miller. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by board member Bannister. Are there any changes to the agenda at all?
No, there are not.
Okay.
Thank you, President.
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion carries 4-0. Now we're going on to public comment. And I'd first like to call up Janice Kuhn. Hello again.
Thank you, President Snubbs. I may look familiar to some of you in the room. Thank you, board, again for letting me present. I was here earlier for the SECA committee meeting or board meeting, and I'm here again because I know there are different parents online that might want to hear about this program. So my name is Janice Kuhn, and I'm a marketing specialist. I work for Omnitrans, and Omnitrans is the public transit system that serves Yucaipa and surrounding areas. I'm here to tell you about our Free Fares for School program. We are offering free fares for schools within our service area, August through February. That's right, absolutely free. All the students have to do is show their ID to board. As you know, there is a measurable link between access to transportation and attendance, and we want to help you get your school year off to a roaring start. We understand that parents might have a little bit of resistance to public transportation, and I wanted to add that we do have a travel training bus that we can bring out to the site so that the parents board it with the students and get rid of some of that fear. I also wanted to point out that our service, some people want to know where we go. We have direct service to Yucaipa High School. We have direct service to Parkview Middle School, to SECA. We also have indirect service, but very close to Ridgeview, Chapman Heights, and Calamasa Elementary. We are within 0.3 of a mile to Oak Valley High School and Middle School. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kuhn. We really appreciate Omnitrans reaching out to us. It sounds like a great program that's a benefit to many of our kids. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Walters, welcome.
I feel short. There's a little thing you can pull out at the bottom.
I think, is there a box to pull out?
Yeah, I need, you know, like graduation thing. Oh, yeah.
There's a step down there, Joe. There you go.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for allowing me to come in and speak to you guys again. And I'm here tonight because I want to make sure that I spend a couple of seconds thanking you guys all so much for all the wonderful stuff we got to celebrate before the graduates got to graduate on Wednesday. I know that there was a lot of behind the scenes help that went into that. Thank you for you guys all know my position on it. I definitely would love to have had more, but I was so thankful for what we had. I'm thankful to the teachers who have all just been, you guys have hired just incredibly wonderful teachers through all of the districts, all of the schools. And not only thanks to the teachers, but also thanks to all the parents that are just crazy awesome in the city of Ukiah. It was a truly wonderful graduation. It was really bittersweet. Y'all be proud of me. I was not a blubbering idiot. I thought for sure I would be an absolute blubbering idiot because I've been a blubbering idiot every single time I've talked about what my kid as a senior has lost this year. But thankfully I got to take time taking pictures and I kept my brain active and I was not a blubbering idiot. I do have to say that the best thing about that night was the fact that you guys got a chance to see 90% of the student body, the teachers, the staff, and the parents, and the city, those who could attend the graduation. 90% of us were unmasked, and we got a chance to show you guys how we feel about being masked against our will. If you were as you're looking at the left side of the stage, if you were on the left side of the stage, you got a chance to shake my son's unmasked face. They were definitely ready to be done with this year. And that was one of the things that I actually did like the most about that night. And as we continue to see the propaganda blow up through the next couple of months in regards to the situation that is continuing to hold our youth hostage, I'm gonna ask and continue to call upon you guys to help not let our kids continue to be held hostage and be political pawns in this, because they're the ones that are suffering. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Walters. Appreciate
I'll put my
that.
step away.
We do have one more public comment. It's in a written form and I will read it. Hello, my name is Courtney Nichols. I am writing today to simply just say how dissatisfied and disappointed I am with this entire school year. Nothing was handled correctly. Sorry, my glasses are fogging up. Or logically. My kids have been going through this long enough. If things do not change for this next school year, I fully intend on pulling all 3 of my kids out of the public school system for failing them in their education. I have been silent long enough. I had hoped something was going to change, and here we are over a year later and these kids are still not back in school 5 full days. It's now summer break. We've gone through countless meltdowns, assignments that they are expected to complete when there was a lack of instruction in said subject. My second grader was assigned 4 math pages after only being taught for a portion of the class. 4 pages she was to complete independently, that's in quotes. Teachers ignoring or can't hear the kids. The begging of my preschooler daily to go to school. He'd only been in school a couple of months before COVID. He is so confused and he cries every time I have to do a packet pickup. My other 2 hate every minute of distance learning. It's a cop out and everyone knows it. I really don't see how you all think just a couple hours a day is an effective teaching plan and then give them hours of independent. classwork, independent in quotes. My second grader on a given day will have pages of math, Zern assignments, read work, seesaw, reflex, and read for 20 to 25 minutes. And then once a week, she has an independent Spanish lesson. How does a school expect so much independent work, especially in a foreign language they've never been taught? She has more independent work than she did instruction time. I'm also upset about how unfair it is to stress these kids out even more by making them take the STAR test. They're not ready to successfully take, nor are they mentally ready for these tests. She was in tears because she thought she was supposed to know all of what was on it. I wish I would have known I could have opted out of them out of taking it. My sixth grader practically failed most of the year. She has had to know this stuff, do pages of it, and be tested on it by this year. Both my girls have modules and workbooks that weren't even touched. One of them was from my fifth grader and she looked at it. The first lesson was on graphing, something she was struggling with. I am demanding that you do your part and get these kids back in school for 5 full days for the 2021-22 school year. I can't speak for every parent, but I know quite a few on board with me when I say I will 100% withdraw all 3 of my kids if you keep the masks in place. The board needs to remove the mask. Other school boards have done it, so there's absolutely no reason you type of Kalamazoo can't do it as well. All of you know you have the power to remove it and are choosing not to. At what cost will you guys realize that masking our children is child abuse? When a child, God forbid, passes out or gets hurt on campus, when I sue for injury upon my child. Masks have been proven ineffective and unnecessary. Neither myself or my kids have worn a mask during this whole thing, and I will never wear one, nor will I make my kids wear one. Certainly not because someone said to. No one has the power over me or my children except for me, not the governor, not the state, not the government, and definitely not a small little district in the middle of nowhere. No one cares about these fake politicians, what these fake politicians say. The science and quotes you want to follow is flawed and corrupt. The CDC you want to follow is flawed and corrupt. The teachers union is flawed and corrupt. And as far as I'm concerned, you guys are flawed and corrupt. Prove me wrong. Drop the harmful, abusive, pointless, and ineffective mask mandate. Placing something over the mouth of children for any period of time is astronomical and cause for concern. The school and teachers are not equipped for medical issues. They're going to rise with this madness. I will never send my kids to school with a mask, and that is my right to refuse anything harmful to me or my children. The teachers have and should rightfully so have the right as well. This is something proven, not just me saying. Masks are proven ineffective. You want to trust the science, here's your sign. It's mind-boggling how you guys chose to drag this all out all school year when others opened. I would have threw my kids way earlier if you guys would have been transparent. Excuse me. With what we're going to do or not going to do. Oh, you guys had a plan for summer school. I know for a fact that was a plan for quite some time before it came into play. That could have been the plan for school when it fake reopened. You have robbed all these kids and us as parents of our right to a public education. Not that I have very much faith in it anymore. It's just really sad and makes you guys look very bad. You've robbed kindergartners of their first year at school. That is a huge milestone for our babies. You've robbed 6th graders of their first year in middle school. You've robbed 9th graders of their first year in high school. You robbed seniors of their final year in a proper graduation. I'm glad they were able to have what they did. You've robbed last year's seniors out of their first year in college. I personally love my senior year. If this would have happened to me my senior year, I've never met my husband the way I did. My entire life would have been altered and probably for the worst. My husband has saved me in many ways. 14 years later, we have 3 beautiful children. I would have never had my kids. None of these kids deserve what you've done. Lives have been altered forever. You have the power now to make it up to our kids. You have the power to drop the mask. No one wants to wear one, and no one should have to. It shouldn't be in school. It is and should be in school and the workplace, a freedom of choice. And then she pasted the mission, our district mission statement underneath that, and it's signed Courtney Nichols. Okay. Now we're moving on to that there's no more public comment, correct? Okay. Now we're moving on to 6.01 educational services, a public hearing for the 2021-2022 local control and accountability plan, or the LCAT. But before the public hearing, I believe we do have a presentation by Dr. Anderson.
Yes, thank you, President Snell. Okay. Thank you, members of the board. Tonight, we're presenting our LCAT plan for 21-24. And part of this plan is it's a little bit different because it incorporates part of the reflection. It's really 3 plans in one. Part of it incorporates the 1920 LCAT, but also reflection on our learning continuity plan from this year. And then also planning for 21-24 school years. So part of this, in developing it with our stakeholders, I thought this quote was pretty appropriate from Oscar Wilde, talking about how without order, nothing exists, and without chaos, nothing evolves. So taking the positive from these experiences, I think our stakeholders, especially our teachers and our other certificated staff and classified and administrators, have done an amazing job. So I appreciate our educational services team in developing this plan, but really all of our stakeholders involving our employees and parents and students in this. So going back and reviewing our learning elements that we incorporated into these plans, a big part of it were our devices and connectivity, but also a positive that we took from this also was cohesion in our delivery and learning. So part of that was having the common learning platforms among elementary and secondary, and also in our instruction and curriculum supports, as well as collaboration amongst our teams. And that was all throughout the year. I have to say that was one of our strengths, was not just going during the summer, but it continued all throughout the year to monitor progress. And then also that targeted student support and intervention for our students. And then also allowed us that data collection part with assessments, but also gathering qualitative data in regular meetings and conversations with our teams, as well as survey data and also student empathy interviews as well. So part of the plan is it asks for reflection with successes. A piece of this would be regarding our technology access. In a short amount of time, we were able to purchase 6,800 Chromebooks, and that was for our students to have access and also deploy that in the beginning of the school year. And again, that took a Herculean effort from our classified staff, our library techs, that's all classified staff jumping on board, our yard duty aides, campus monitors, other instructional aides that we really appreciated, but also hotspots. We were able to purchase 1,300 hotspots and have those available for our families as well. A big piece too is access and availability of staff. So this was a little bit difficult in distance learning, but I think our teams did a great job in problem solving as best as could be done, in the sense of our teachers provided office hours, but it also was a part of our re-engagement teams doing home visits. It was also our classified and certificated staff being available to students at different times and reaching out to them in various ways. Google Voice became popular. We found that parents and students responded quicker when using Google Voice instead of email. So these are the pieces we're trying to take away to still incorporate in our 21-24 plan with certain pieces that worked and were effective. In the cohesion and learning and delivery, it allowed our teams, K-12, to get together and understand what we needed to do in meeting certain criteria for learning. Part of that was making agreements on what is most effective regarding curriculum and instruction, because our teams work very hard. But one piece that we did find during this was that we had a huge variance, and it's widening the gap, because our teachers work really hard, but when we're doing a lot of different things, research shows, and that's what we also found, is that also creates a bigger gap. So it helps our teams work together better. Collaboration was another piece where our teams had that structured collaboration time that was incorporated within the school day, where they could not only collaborate at their school sites, but with other members at other schools across the district. And our teams have done an amazing job with that. It was very powerful to have that time to meet with teachers and administrators also to do quick check-ins and also progress monitoring as well. So collaboration was very effective. Our social and emotional support during this time too, our teams did an amazing job. Our behavioral health counselors, along with our school counselors, provided a tier 1 toolkit in just beginning the school year. So our student services team got together during that summer and planned what can we do to help support our teams. So in addition to Care Solace as a resource for our families and also our staff members, our counselors did a phenomenal job this year. Also staff training. We had to look at how can we do this differently. So we provided the self-paced online Alludo platform where we had approximately 773 employees participate in the staff training all throughout the year. And then we kept adding pieces for them and ended up with over 270 topics that are classified, and certificated staff as well as substitute teachers were able to take part in. So that was also another piece that we'd like to continue for next year. In the area of identified need, in working with our stakeholders, we realized that in communications, it's still, okay, you can send things out, but in learning with our stakeholders, we understand that communications is still a need in the sense of understanding the frequency, the information that is sent, and then also strengthening not only the modes of communication, but also enhancing two-way communication. So that's something that we're still working on as well, because we had regular meetings and sent information out, but we also understand we need to work on that cascading communication to ensure all stakeholders are communicated with in a timely manner. Another piece is re-engagement. Our re-engagement teams at our schools did an amazing job with home visits, and we understood that that worked and that was effective to a certain point. But we also realized that there's a certain number of students that were disengaged still. And we understand that there's certain factors that may have caused that during the pandemic, where they may have had to move, they were displaced, various factors. However, we do also understand that this is a factor with coming back to in-person learning, and we're trying to connect with our families again for that engagement and learning piece. In looking at our LCAP plan for 21-24, we revised the goals, and goals 1 and 2 go together with the state priority of Pupil Outcomes. So this is talking about the increase in relevance and rigor and consistency of our curriculum and instruction, but it's also incorporating that close identified to the achievement gap. So it's providing those targeted pieces for students that may still be struggling with learning. In part of this goal, in splitting it up, I wanted to show what was new with the plan, but then also what was ongoing. Part of this would be new programs incorporated this year, but also beginning next year. What those programs look like would be those additional devices for home use. So we understand that we're going back to in-person learning. However, our teachers did an amazing job of incorporating over 61 new computer applications this year. And our team met again throughout the year to talk about what pieces we wanted to keep, because they still want to incorporate that technology. Another positive was they were thrown into learning technology all at once, if we liked it or not. So our teachers still want to incorporate that. So we want to have the computer devices and hotspots available for home use as well, and going into this next year. Feedback also included having a Ludo and also professional development. We'll have it in person, but also to have that blended learning option also, because we found that very effective. In the ongoing programs of instructional supports, we will keep the actions that we had. For example, we'll keep our AVID program. We're also incorporating our new teacher induction program. Our reading specialists, PE teachers, our targeted intervention specialists, and also we added additional support for our computer resource assistants, just because we understand there is a high demand for the technology support and also keeping the devices going and also working. Part of that too is also credit recovery teachers. We understand when students have this unfinished learning and or they struggle during distance learning, that we need to provide the opportunity to recover credits as well at the high school level. In pieces of the ongoing supports in both goals 1 and 2, it also incorporates our instructional aids, as well as that additional instructional technology support, and that can be computer software and our hardware. Pieces of it also include our English language development teachers, as well as the professional development, the leadership part with the National Institute of School Leadership, but also our inclusion work. Our teams were involved in an inclusion grant this year with our East Valley SELPA, and we had Parkview Middle School and also Valley Elementary School involved in this first round, and our teams did an amazing job with that. So we will continue that inclusion work as well. And we'll also continue our visual and performing arts support, as well as our WestEd K-12 Alliance work regarding our NGSS, our Next Generation Science Standards implementation for this next year, and looking at instructional materials K-12. I'm sorry, those were 2 big goals. So the next goals are goals 3 and 4, and these are incorporated with our career technical pathways. So both goals relate to one another under the conditions of learning priorities. Part of the new programs for this would be supporting with our career technical education credentialing. So why this is so important is because a part of our college and career readiness index and part of our dashboard that's and measuring our effectiveness is also with how many teachers that we have that have a CTE credential. So we provided that incentive in our LCAP, as well as the California College Guidance Initiative. What this is this initiative it ensures that all students 6th grade through 12th grade, they have the right tools in order to prepare and plan for college. So what it is, it's data-driven tools that provide that college and career and financial planning support for our students. And what our counseling team did with our director of teaching and learning this last year is build out a grade level sequence with our work with CCGI. So even though CCGI is free to us at this time, which is a huge incentive, it still takes a lot of planning on our counselors' parts, but also our administrators in order to communicate and provide those tools to our students and families in the right way. Part of that also is including support for our students with the CCGI, and part of our LCAP plan is to provide support for PSAT, but also AP exams for our students. Pieces of this also developing a 4-year plan for our students in high school in order to have that alignment into post-secondary, either education or workforce. A piece of our goals for goals 3 and 4 also incorporate our dual enrollment agreement with Crafton Hills College. And the pieces of that would be part of our courses that we're incorporating at Green Valley High School and Oakview High School next year with our work readiness certificates as well. Where our students will not only earn elective credits, but when they complete the courses, they'll also have a work readiness certificate. And in part of this, it's really strengthening our career technical education pathways at our high schools. I think one thing that we're really lucky in our district to have the support from our board and our superintendent is really having CTE pathways at alternative education high schools, because a lot of districts don't have that. And it's really for our students in need. And our principals have done a great job in ensuring that our courses are sequenced in the right way in order for our students to have those completed.
Dr. Anderson, before you go on to goals 5 and 6, may I ask you just a quick question? I want to try and understand the career technical education credentialing. What does that exactly look like?
What that looks like is our teachers have the opportunity, if they have industry sector experience, they have the opportunity to have a CTE credential, which gives them that second piece of credentialing to be basically a career expert as well. And
So you're talking about
that's
district teachers. I'm sorry,
Yes.
district teachers. Okay.
Our district teachers.
Okay,
yes.
thank you. That's what,
Okay.
thank you.
Part of goals 5 and 6, really this is with the engagement priority. This brings our families together, also partnering with our schools, but also fostering positive school environments. Goal 5 really was developed around stakeholder feedback, and it incorporated it also and aligned with our expanded learning opportunity grant. With that, what it really meant was that social emotional learning support. And what happened this year is we incorporated our youth mental health first aid trainings. Dr. Lingenfelter and Danielle Elgin, one of our elementary counselors, provided this training to our certificated and classified staff, as well incorporated into our 21-24 LCAP. We're adding additional elementary counselors in order to have one full-time elementary counselor at every elementary school, as well as adding one counselor at Yucaipa High School in order to support expanding our independent study expansion. Part of the high school counselor position also will help with that monitoring of students and also for the college preparation, whether that's preparing for the PSAT exams, whether it's filling out FAFSA, the financial aid support, whether it's making sure students are filling out proper paperwork, not only for financial aid, but also post-secondary education as well. And also it helps monitor students' data and also filling out their 4-year plans and also grades through 11. Part of the social emotional learning curriculum and supports as well is our elementary and middle school counselors did an amazing job this year of creating a scope and sequence of social emotional learning curriculum and aligning it at all elementary schools and also at middle school. Whereas at elementary, it's more the counselor incorporating and preparing these lessons. Whereas at the middle school, I know our PE teachers did an amazing job of helping support with those lessons as well. Other ongoing supports that we have is Care Solace, that has been an amazing support for our school district, for our staff, employees, but also our families. And the response I've received from our counselors is the quick response time that Care Solace provides when someone reaches out to them for counseling support in some sort of way. We have had an amazing response with that. Also, we have our program where everybody belongs at the middle school that we are expanding into Ukaipa High School next year with Link Crew. So that's something that we're looking forward to in order to align those programs and provide that support at the high school as well. Our behavioral health counselors have done an amazing job. Along with everything else that went on this year, our behavioral health counselors and counselors also ensured that we provided our signs of suicide prevention training, and that was especially hard virtually. But we ended up having presentations in partnership with South Coast here in town, counseling services, in 137 classes at the middle school and high school. And we helped provide these types of presentations to over 2,500 students. And our counselors followed up with students as well, and they just did an amazing job, and we're really proud of them. Also, our bilingual parent engagement specialist, I have to say, and our bilingual homeless foster liaison did an amazing job providing virtual workshops for our families, but also providing resources. Because especially during this time, during our home visits and re-engagement team visits, we found that our parents were in more need than we even realized. So if it wasn't for their communication and help, we wouldn't be where we were. So we really appreciate that work. And our community liaison at Oakview High School and Green Valley High School, her name is Aries. She does an amazing job as well, especially with our attendance review team and providing community resources and post-secondary information. Lastly, just to finish up too with our positive student behavior intervention and supports for next year, we will be incorporating all schools now into all the training at various levels within the PBIS training. So that's another big piece, is we want to ensure that all of our schools are being involved in that as well. For our stakeholder engagement, I have to recognize Mrs. Binks because she did a great job. She's very busy, but she had meetings with our different parent groups all throughout the year. And everybody knows that Mrs. Binks is very genuine and sincere, and she had real conversations every other week with different parent groups to ensure that people felt heard and that we're meeting our students' needs. And it really helped give us feedback on what we're doing and how we could provide support better for our parents from various stakeholder groups, but also our students. Another piece was our DLAC team, our District English Language Advisory Committee. Our K-12 lead teacher team, this is where we, Kathy Jackson, our Director of Teaching and Learning, and myself met with our K-12 lead teachers. And this had kind of morphed from our summer task force for instruction. So I really appreciate everybody hanging in with me all throughout the year. And then working with our different unions, CSEA and YCEA have been amazing. Getting feedback from them, being in constant communication. They just did a really great job of working with us, and we really appreciate it. Also, our SELPA has been amazing with incorporating supports for us, especially with inclusion. And a big piece too is our student voice. Our administrators and teachers from our K-12 lead teacher team participated in over 50 student empathy interviews. And it was amazing just the feedback that we received, because in those interviews, we received more feedback that way from our students than when we sent them a survey. So it was very powerful for us to do. Are there any questions at this point?
Board Member Bannister?
Oh, sorry, I guess I should talk about expenditures. I apologize, Dr. Rubin. I have to talk about the money. It's kind of important. Overall, I wanted to show our expenditures in a very easy to understand way. Overall, goals 1 and 5, it's really with the curriculum and instruction, but also those positive relationships and social emotional supports for our student. They're the majority of our LCAP plan.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Now do you have any questions?
All right, Board Member Bannister?
Well, that was amazing and very comprehensive. My overarching impression is that we have a plan, we're working the plan, we're paying attention to the results that we're getting as we're taking steps, and we're using that to inform the future plan, which I really appreciate that it's, you know, in my life as a teacher, I went to lots and lots of meetings and listened to lots and lots of programs that we were going to do. And the frustrating part about a lot of that stuff was we'd do this thing and then it would go away and we'd move on to the next thing. So it was rather haphazard, it seemed to me. And the nice thing about the LCAP is it kind of gives us a framework to keep moving. And I really appreciate all the information about the things that we learned during this year, not just with technology, but with talking to parents and talking to kids, the conversations, and using that information to move us forward towards the next thing in a different year that will hopefully be a little more normal, but we'll also be able to incorporate what we learned. That's really great.
Thank you. Board Member Cole.
I'm excited to see what the plan is for expanding the CTE. I think
Yeah,
we have a lot to offer there, and I think that's something we can really do for our community, is to push our kids forward into a lot of different areas for as they move through their lives.
Board Member Miller.
Good job, Dr. Anderson. I appreciate all the information. I myself, as a parent, attended many LCAP meetings a few years back, and I love to see that people are being listened to, parents are being listened to, and that there are things in the works. I see a lot of things that we had discussed in those meetings are being implemented, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you listen and take all that information in. I also love that you shared some successes, because it was a strange and difficult year, and I just appreciate all that that has worked well, and that you guys have worked really hard to create those successes. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Miller. And for me, Dr. Anderson, I have a pretty clear idea of what it takes to put together an LCAP. I can't imagine what it's been like going through the pandemic, having to do the learning continuity plan that we hadn't heard of, kind of adjust on the fly in the middle of the year. One of my criticisms of all LCAPs, quite frankly, is the LCAP itself, I think, is way too long, way too arduous for parents. It's not parent friendly at all.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of educational ease in it. And the one that I developed in Colton was like 180 pages and yours 142. And so I know that. And I wish we'd come up with a better way of doing that. But the point I want to make is the presentation that you did took that 142 pages and condensed it into something that was very meaningful and was able to concisely show the successes we've had, what some of the work that we have to do. And I really appreciate that, because it's not easy to do that. And I hope that we can use that presentation that you just gave for our parent groups. It's just more parent friendly than a 142 page LCAP that, quite frankly, I got bored reading the ones that I wrote. I mean, I didn't want to look at them anymore. So, but anyway, I just really appreciate the way that you put it together for us, Dr. Anderson. So thank you. Okay, now we're going to have our public hearing for the 2021-2022 LCAP, and I'll open the hearing at 7:10 p.m. And I will close it. We'll call it 7:11 to make it look as though we had some type of hearing, I guess. So, okay. Thank you very much again. Now we're moving on to public hearing for the proposed budget, and Dr. Vreeman, I believe that you have some information to share with us.
Thank you, Mr. Snelling, members of the board. I will definitely not be as riveting as Dr. Anderson. But I don't have any charts. I'll try to simplify if I can. She does an amazing job. So well, here we are again in a cycle of the budget, and you can see where we're at. We're at the budget hearing. And I just want to remind the board that we have to have our budget hearing and adopt the budget based on the May revise of the governor's budget. So we have to adopt our budget before California adopts their budget. So we're going off information that is not in law yet. So we take those assumptions and I'll bring a final budget to you next week. Then the state adopts their budget, and then if there are major revisions, then I'll come back to you within 45 days and present any sort of revision. So this budget that I'm presenting is based on the May revise of the governor's budget. So the best information that we have. Before we get into that, our budget, I really want to talk just a second about the state and federal stimulus dollars. Just a quick slide. We received quite a few stimulus dollars, this year, as you can see, millions of dollars. You can see where, the money came from, the amount, and the balance. Those first top 4 balances, we had a specific deadline, to spend that money. And so we did, and Dr. Anderson talked about a lot of things we did around Chromebooks and technology and programs and just adapting. And that's what that money was for, is to support students and teachers in schools in this COVID pandemic. There's three pots of money left. The Extended Learning Opportunity Grant, and Dr. Anderson presented that at the May 25th board meeting. And so that plan is in place and will complement the LCAP. That's around $5.6 million additional dollars. It has to be spent by August of 2022. That's summer school this year, jumpstart, those types of things, as well as ongoing supports for students as we go through the school year. Then there's 2 other large pots of federal stimulus dollars. We call them ESSER 2 and 3, Emergency and Secondary School Relief Fund. And ESSER 2 and 3, so we have not received those dollars yet. They're coming. And ESSER 3, the biggest pot of money, the $14 million, does require a board-approved plan. So we'll be working with our stakeholders, similar to the LCAP. And there's some different spending categories. It's restricted dollars, but we'll be bringing forth a plan to the Board of Education on spending those dollars. We have 3 years to spend the ESSER 3 dollars. This is one-time federal stimulus money. So thank you. We can move on. This is a slide I show every year, and this is the Prop 98 guaranteed funding for the state budget. And this is not the type of funding, but this is state funding. So you can see in 1920, the amount of money going to schools was $79.3 billion. That was 1920. This time last year, I came to you and said, our projected 2021 revenue for the state was $70 billion. So this time last year, 12 months ago, I came to you saying we're going to be $13.2 million short in the 3rd year out. We need to have a budget reduction plan. And that's what the state was telling us the funding was going to come in at. And so I just want to share that what a difference 12 months makes. So instead of that $70 billion revenue in 2021, it came out at 92.8, and then a little bit more their projections for 21-22. And so we call it a whiplash budget because last year we were in a different situation. And thank goodness the state fared much better than they had predicted. One of the things I always share with you is the ending fund balance. Another board item coming up the next board item is about this ending fund balance. And our ending fund balance is predicted to be around $11 million. We'll know for sure in September when we come to you with unaudited actuals. This is our estimate at the current time. This is higher than we projected, and I want to explain a few things through here. Revolving cash and storage, that's just supplies we have on hand. So that's always a certain amount of money, right around $111,000. We're required to have a 3% savings account by the state, and I'll share a little bit more of that. So we do have our 3%. Our LCAP, Dr. Anderson talked about, as well as school sites have their own plans. It's called a SIPSA, Single Plan for Student Achievement. Schools had about a $1.3 million carryover in that. And that had to do with a lot of things. One of the biggest things, so we received that federal stimulus dollars. And so we bought those things that were in school plans with the federal money. Therefore, the schools didn't have to spend their money, nor did Ed services. We were able to spend some things. So that money rolls over back, both on the ed services side, rolls back into the LCAP. So the plan presented this evening, Dr. Anderson has those dollars rolled in, and then as well as the schools receive their carryover. And so they'll receive that money. Schools also have a site discretionary donations carryover. So you can see about 1.4 million of our ending fund balance is a carryover to schools. Declining enrollment contingency. So we are predicting declining enrollment, and we have been declining about 100 students a year, 120 students a year. This next year we're held harmless. We're funded based on the February 2020 enrollment. And so this next year, but the following year, it goes back to normal enrollment revenue stream. And so if we decline enrollment, we're okay next year, but year 2 and 3.
22, 23 then.
Yeah, 22, 23, 23, 24, we're predicting declining enrollment.
Got it.
And so we have to have a little money set aside. And then also we've committed around $3 million to specific projects. at the board workshop, I shared that, we've gone out to stakeholders, we've done our own facility needs assessment, and so we did have some money to do some desperately needed things at the school sites, and these are our priorities moving forward with some extra funding this year to support schools and students around the district. Next slide, please. So assumptions, remember I said this is based on the Mary revision. So these are the assumptions. So we talked about minus 100 students. The cost of living adjustment, the COLA for 21-22 is expected to be 5.07. And you can see the next 2 years and what that COLA is at. Last year when I came to you, that COLA was not only 0, but they were talking about a 10% reduction factor in each of the COLAs. So that's why it's so different this year. And then CalSTRS and CalPERS, those are retirement rates that we have to pay into, and you can see those are inclining over the next 3 years. So this is my only big chart, and I highlighted what's super important here, but for us to have a positive certification from the county, submit our budget to the county, in the next 3 years, next year and the next year, we have to be able to pay our bills and have a 3% reserve. And so that means it's a positive certification not only next year, but the 2 out years. So we do, next week, I'll ask you to approve a budget with a positive certification, but this week is just the hearing. But the highlighted area that is what we have left projected on 3 years away, 3 years out. So as long as that's above 0, then we have a positive certification. So these, and remember, this will be adjusted once the state really approves their budget. So 45 days from July 1st, I'll come to you with what the real numbers were. So this is the budget we have so far. So I'm showing that we'll have a positive certification 3 years out. Okay. Next slide. I'll also share a little bit about CECA. CECA doesn't require a 3% reserve. We are the reserve, as we're sponsoring district. And so they are, they're beginning fund balance and ending fund balance. They are positive. And so CECA is in a good position for 21-22 and the out years. But I just wanted to share that amount for CECA. Next steps, next week we'll bring back to the board for a proposed budget. California will approve their budget by June 30th, and then we'll have a 45-day window if there are major changes. I'll bring that back to the Board of Education to show the changes in revenue and expenditures and ending fund balance. So, any questions?
Board Member Cope?
No questions. It's good news though.
Board Member Miller, any questions?
I do have a question, Eric. The CECA amount, is that included in our budget and you just kind of gave us an idea on the amount, or is that a separate amount?
So CECA has their own budget since they're a charter school, though we oversee them and they're with us, they're a dependent charter, but no, their budget is separate from our budget. And so every year in the SACS document, which is about 150 pages, one is called Fund 09. We have different funds, but Fund 09, CECA is a separate budget line item. And so their funds are separate than our funds.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Bremen, if I recall, and I appreciate the fact that you kept this up to speed over the course of the last year, and we, of course, had a budget workshop last week. But if I remember correctly, there was a survey done of employees as well related to the budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we put out a survey last week and looking at our ESSER funds specifically. So the dollars that are set inside of ESSER, that 14 million.
Okay.
There's certain categories. We put a survey out to all employees. And last week, as of Friday, we had 230 respondents to that survey. So a really good survey response rate. But we'll use that information that we received from that survey, as well as stakeholder survey. We'll talk to both associations, obviously talk to the Board of Education, and use all that information in presenting a ESSER 3 plan to the Board of Education.
That was my question. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
So now we're going to have the public hearing for the 2021-2022 proposed budget, and I will open the hearing at 7:23, and I will close it 24. Thank you again, Dr. Raymond. We're moving on to 6.03. This is another public hearing, substantiation of need for excess of the minimum recommended reserve for economic uncertainties. That's That's very clear. I'm being
Something
facetious.
more than the 3%.
So can you give us some information on that?
Sure, that has to do with our ending fund balance. So one of the slides I showed you was we had an $11 million ending fund balance. It's above the 3%. So what we do is we have a public hearing around why we need to use that money.
Okay,
And so, for example, is for our enrollment contingency, was for our committed dollars to
Right.
support schools. It's our stores, it's our LCAP carryover. And so this is a hearing about our ending fund balance. If anybody would like to speak to our ending fund balance.
okay, thank you. So I will now open the public hearing regarding the proposed budget for for the public hearing for the substantiation of need for excess of the minimum recommended reserve for economic uncertainties. I will open up the hearing at 7:24. Seeing no one, we will close the hearing at 7:25. We're moving on to 6.04 business services. Another public hearing for the Education Protection Act spending plan. Any more information on this?
Thank you, Mr. Stelling. So this had to do with Proposition 30. So many years ago, several years ago now, the state was in economic decline. The voters approved Proposition 30. Proposition 30 gave money to schools, but it had to be spent around teachers and classrooms. And so this is a hearing, this is showing that the $14 million that we received in Proposition 30 money is specifically just for teachers in the classroom.
Got it.
So that's what we have to talk.
Okay, any questions? Nope, seeing none. Okay, I will open the hearing at 7:24. Ish. And I'll close it at 7:25. Okay, thank you, Dr. Freeman and Dr. Anderson. And I believe that we meet next week to actually approve these plans, right? And we're going through the process, okay. All right, we're moving on to item number 7.01, approval of the consent calendar as presented. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar, items 7.01 through 7.04?
Move approval.
Second.
I've got a motion by Board Member Bannister and a second by Board Member Coat for approval. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Now we're going on to Board Superintendent Communication Session, additional administrative information. Ms. Beans.
Thank you, President Snellings. I want to thank Dr. Anderson and Dr. Freeman for doing such a comprehensive job in the midst of doing a million other jobs. I take the opportunity to recognize Amber Tavis, who is our coordinator of
Hey,
business
Amber.
services, took this job on and has been killing it over there across the aisle. And so we appreciate her dedication to it. As she's been working hard to not only learn the role quickly, but to support Dr. Freeman in business services in many different areas. So we welcome you to the board meeting.
Thank you.
And also, I just thank, the board has met so many times this year, and many of the times it's been because of executive orders and things from the governor, but having the opportunity to meet for facilities. Our facilities don't always have a voice. Sometimes they moan and groan through pipes and leaks and things, but we really appreciated the time the board's been able to dedicate this a whole year, but specifically the last 6 months, it's been a lot of meetings and we appreciate it. And we hope that as we gain more information from our stakeholders, which include our parents, it includes, of course, the Board of Education and all of our employees, will be able to make some great recommendations to make some improvements. So we're excited about that. We're fully staffed, Mr. Paez, thank you so much, at summer school. They've worked really hard, and this has been a little bit of a tough go because not everybody wants to work because of the year we just had, but we've got some dedicated professionals that are doing that. And we also are trying to give some time off to our administrators. And so we have some retirees and some teachers in charge that have stepped up to kind of take the burden so we can push them out of the nest into vacation, which is really hard for them to do, a lot of type A personalities. But thank you so much. We've appreciated all of the parent feedback that we've received, a lot of it on graduations and events. So thank you, Ms. Walters, I appreciate it. And hearing, just working with those folks that are needing additional support through summer school. We've got a lot of people that are still here and supporting our parents. So thank you.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, I just wanted to thank Mrs. Tavis. We recognized her, Mrs. Banks did, but this is our first budget. And I've come to her with a lot of the last minute things, so she worked through it. It's been a champ, so I just want to recognize you and your entire staff. So thank you so
right.
much for working.
Very good. Okay, we'll move on to board member comments. Board member Miller, any comments this evening?
Well, I want to thank Amber also and her staff. I appreciate it. I know Dr. Riemann has a lot of things that he's throwing at you right now, and I appreciate all that you're doing for him. Dr. Riemann, thank you again for the presentation. I appreciate it. I always appreciate that you're so helpful and with my questions. They may be simple sometimes, but you still answer. Dr. Anderson, thank you again for the presentation. And that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board member Coe.
Great job on the LCAP. I know that's not an easy task. I'm pretty sure you probably didn't sleep too much during that time, and if you did sleep, you were dreaming about it. So thank you for that presentation. That was a great way to get the message across. And I know the budget's not easy, and thank you so much for making it understandable on both levels, but that budget, I know that's hard, and I know it's hard to understand, and I appreciate everything you guys have done. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the improvements around town on our campuses so that our kids can, roll up to a nice facility and have great things that they are looking forward to seeing every day at school. Thank you.
Board member Bannister.
Yeah, I would, echo all of those things you guys, because everybody's had whiplash this year with all the rules and regulations, and as things change and you think they're going to change, then they don't change, and the money and all that stuff. So way to roll with the punches and really come out with a really wonderful program. And I also want to say, I take this opportunity to thank all the administrators at all of our campuses for the end of year ceremonies. I was only able to attend the secondary, the high school graduations, and they were amazing, all of them. It was so, in past years, sometimes they've gotten silly and lighthearted, and I think this was not the year for that. There was a lot of introspection that came out in the speeches by the students and the other participants. They were all beautiful, and great job. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm probably dating myself a little bit, but I think I've been to now at least 80 or 85 high school graduations over the years. And the three most special, of course, were for my kids, but the other four special ones were the high school ones that I got to go to this year. Ukaipa High School, Green Valley High School, I'm gonna forget the girl, thank you, Oakview,
And the adult school.
and then our adult ed. I was never so happy to see people together celebrating the students in our district than I was this year. I was proud, I was happy. I could feel it in the kids and the adults that were graduating. I could feel it in the parents. It was palpable, and it was so fulfilling for me personally. I know for everybody else, it wasn't about me really, but it was just such a wonderful experience. And at the end of what was a really awful year, we had some really great celebrations, and I want to thank everybody that was part of putting those together, because that's a lot of work to put together graduations. So thank you, and with that, we will adjourn.